Hello, everyone, and once again, a very warm welcome to Chinet, the agentic commerce podcast where we discuss how brands are building in an AI world. Now, most founder stories that we hear are about speed, fast growth, fast funding, fast scale. How many users can you sell to in the first 1 year and then 2 years? But my guest today did not start out wanting to build a food brand. She was a French teacher, a food blogger, someone who loved travel, flavors, and cooking at home. In 2012, long before clean labels or better for you became a thing we talk about, she launched a gourmet condiments brand in India. No preservatives, small batches, premium pricing, honest ingredients. And for years, growth for her was slow, painfully slow. Today, she's the founder and CEO of the Gourmet Jar, a brand that has helped change how Indian consumers think about jams, sauces, and everyday food. And this episode is very special to me because we're not talking about overnight success this time. With Apeksha, I think the journey has been more of conviction, patience, being early, but still staying in the game when quitting seems like an easier option. Apeksha, a very warm welcome to China.
Thank you.
Let's start, Apeksha. Let's get down. So, tell us a bit of your story. So, before the Gourmet Jar, who was Apeksha Jain?
So before the Gourmet Jar, so I call myself an accidental entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't intend to start a business really. Before this happened, I was a part-time homemaker, part-time
Mm-hmm.
French teacher, part-time food blogger, you can
Right.
say, and somewhat of a naive girl, I would say, and not really
Mm-hmm.
ambitious, but always like I was always very intelligent and strong,
Mm-hmm.
and had very individualistic opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I did my economics honors from LSR. I
Right.
did not want a 9 to 5 job. That's the thing I knew that, like I was very clear about.
That this is not what I want. And yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I did not want,
right.
So I just didn't want a typical 9 to 5 corporate job. So I ended up, I love French, and that was something I was doing on the side, and I ended up going in that direction. And I didn't realize that time that eventually I'll end up signing up for a 24/7 job. So yeah, that's what I was doing, and of course, loved cooking since I was a child, and
Right.
cooking and travel were two passions of mine. So yeah, before this happened, I was happy, just living slow and easy life.
Before this happened, I was happy. I hope that I'll tell my team not to take that quote out of context. That's very important. These
Happy
days,
living a slow and easy life.
yeah. These days, you don't know what can be taken out of context
Yeah,
and then blow up, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's very solid. So yeah, I read your post about being the accidental entrepreneur. I think that's a lot of people are like I would say I've been trying to be an entrepreneur since 7 years, and I don't know whether it's happened yet or not, but yeah, that's a very interesting story. Do you remember like your you know a thought, or like if you go back, what was that moment where you thought that, okay, this can be something bigger, this can be something more than a hobby, more than just cooking home food?
Yeah, so I think entrepreneurship chose me, and like I said, I didn't know what I was really doing,
Right.
and if I knew what I'm signing up for, I probably would have not had the guts to do that. But
Right.
so about 2 years into this journey, when I was still doing this from home, and it was just a small home business and kind of, you can say, a hobby. I was mostly making jams and preserves at that time, and some chef from Oberoi Gurgaon reached out to me, Chef Ravitesh. He was the exec chef there, and he was actually looking for someone in India to make jams for them, the small jams that you see on breakfast
Right.
tables. And they were using imported brand at that time, and he was actually looking around for somebody to do it in India. And
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody happened to recommend my name to him, and
Wow.
then he called me for a meeting, and then I couldn't believe that, okay, I was going for a meeting to Oberoi first of all.
Right.
Then, after a year of kind of back and forth and a lot of trials for them and a lot of negotiation and all of that, I actually ended up getting the contract for those 28-gram jars for the Oberoi hotels across the country.
Wow.
And
So
I
your
think that
first
was,
meeting and you ended up converting that.
yeah, I mean, it took a year or so, but then yeah,
Right.
it ended up happening. And even while I was doing all that, I didn't really think that I would actually get that. And I think by the end of it, when I actually got the contract, I was like, okay, this is something which has some potential. I
Right.
mean, I thought of this as a small home business, but it can be much bigger. So that was the moment, I think, which really changed the journey a lot. And I think like for me it was very incredible that like I'm going to be working with somebody like the Oberois at such an early stage of my journey.
Of course. And emotionally, where were you? Like, were you scared? Were you excited?
I think both, right? A lot of nervousness,
Of
very
course.
scared, of course, because the numbers were very big, and I had to obviously move out home, set up a small unit, get my licenses,
Right.
etc. People to help me out, and so there was a lot of nervousness, but at the same time, a lot of excitement. And I think I was going through something like the imposter syndrome, probably, even though I didn't
Right.
really know those words at that time. But I think, like, for me, it was like, oh, how the hell am I working with somebody like an Oberoi group? And
Right.
actually be able to do this, that was, I think, what was like, I think there was a lot of self-doubt as well.
Hmm.
Just that, it's there, so ab karna to hai, for
Of
sure.
course.
Figure it out.
Opportunity to isko, we have to fall through, and we have to make sure that yeah, end to end karke dein. Amazing, amazing. So, and that one opportunity, you think that was like a pivotal
It
moment?
was. It was definitely because that kind of helped me. Like I had to learn a lot of things
Hmm.
from making a few kilos or 5-10 kilos at home
Right.
to making much bigger batches and doing
Hmm.
thousands of those mini jars every month. So there was a lot
Right.
of learning. Of course, there were a lot
Of
of
course.
stumbling blocks, and I did a lot of mistakes, and I learned
Hmm.
from them. And it was like there was this very very big learning curve with that in terms
Of
of how
course.
to scale up. I think.
Yes.
And then, of course, that helped unlock a lot of doors. Once people knew that, okay, I'm working for
Hmm.
hotels, started reaching out, and then, of course, eventually like stores and other opportunities came by
Right.
because, it is like for a brand to be working with the Oberoi and actually like doing something for them, and especially on the tables, it gave a lot of validation and visibility to the brand as well.
Correct. True. Yeah, of course. If and apart from, even if people don't see it on the table, if they see, like, if you have that logo behind you, then that
Exactly.
gives a lot of validation in
Yeah.
itself. Yeah, super. And in like, at what time, what point in your journey you're like, Asha, this is real, and now I'm no longer an accidental entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur.
I think, when I started, I didn't even think of this, being an entrepreneur. I
Right.
think all these words like entrepreneur, startup, VC, like, I mean,
Right.
2012, 13, it wasn't really a thing at
Of
that
course.
time, right?
Right.
And me being from such a background where I had no relation with the whole corporate world and all of that,
Correct.
so, like it was very different for me. So I never
Hmm.
thought of myself as an entrepreneur. These
Right.
words were very alien. And I remember the first time I actually had a meeting, and I
Hmm.
remember telling my mom that I'm going for a meeting. And in my head, I was like, it sounds very weird, because I had never really even had a job, right? Like, hadn't really been in the whole working environment, and I was not
Right.
used to things like meetings, right? So
Wow.
for me, it was in my head. I was like, okay, I'm like the word meeting itself felt very weird.
Wow.
So I think it took like about 5 years of doing this
Hmm.
before I actually felt like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. And
Right.
like, I think it was basically after I ended up raising a seed round of funding for the brand.
Correct.
That's when it kind of felt more real, and I felt okay.
Hmm.
Like this is something that I like. Then the whole thing of entrepreneurship and scaling
Right.
up and all of these, and I learned a lot in that journey as well.
Hmm.
So
Correct.
finances and also that's when I think because I think entrepreneurship is a lot about numbers, and business at the
Correct.
end of the day is finance and numbers, right? That's something I had to learn a lot. I started doing that is when I actually felt like an entrepreneur, I
Okay,
think.
this is serious.
Yeah.
Wow, what a journey. Amazing. In one of your posts, you said, that the first few years were painfully slow, right? So what does that look like in real life? Like, what were those years? Take us back to that time.
So I think the years from like say like when I started like 2012 to up about 2018, 2019, you can
So
say.
2012, you started with the small batch, like home food, right? Like, you were just
So for 2 years it was a home business. So
correct.
2012 to 2014 it was a home business, and
Right.
then 14 towards 14 end is when I kind of set up a small unit, and then I took it
Right.
outside home that way. But
Right.
I would say that things really kicked off after 2015 in a way.
Hmm.
And so for me it was, I think, the fact that my because of not having a corporate background, not having an
Mm-hmm.
MBA, the learning curve was very very slow and very very long.
Hmm.
And there were no network, no connections, no mentors, no co-founder. Just like for me it was just about doing mistakes and just figuring it
And
out.
learning.
Made
Right.
a lot of mistakes and I just learned from them. And even that time the online world was very different. Like now it's much easier. Like you have
Yes,
information on everything. There are
correct,
podcasts, there are so many manuals out there, so many
correct.
playbooks. There are a gazillion groups that you can be part of. So all of this
Makes
was
sense.
non-existent at that time, right? There was no ecosystem as such, right? So even like just getting information used to take like 3x more time. Finding
Mm,
vendors, finding distributors, clients, all
of
of that.
course.
It was a very different way of doing things back then.
And even for customers trust, right? Like people now trust brands, like
Of
new
course.
brands much more than earlier.
Yeah. So, and then, since I was doing, like, I started off doing only sweet spreads like jams and preserves. So the
Hmm.
market size of jams and preserves was very small.
Right.
So there was that phase when, we were not growing really, until COVID happened. And it was very
Mm,
disheartening. And everybody used to say, oh, products are really amazing. Everybody loved the
mm,
products. Nobody ever, said anything bad about that. But the
right.
numbers were not reflecting it. So I think post COVID, and when we launched savory products
Mm,
during COVID in the first wave, and then that's when it really took off, I would say, and
mm,
things changed after that. So I would say yeah, from launching till about the COVID time, it was quite slow.
right. Wow, but you launched like the savory products during COVID, like while it
Yeah.
was happening.
So
Wow.
basically, so until COVID, we were mainly doing jams and preserves and a few mustard and relishes.
Right.
That's about it. So we were in the R&D phase of pasta sauces at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something we had planned for later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had like some sample runs of labels and all of that. And
Right.
when I think COVID happened in March, so we still needed about 6 months to do a proper launch.
Hmm.
And we just when COVID happened, we were like, okay, now like people are sitting at home. Everybody wanted to cook restaurant style food at home, right?
Right.
The pizza, pasta, and all was something which really took off that time. And before that, it was something you go out, you eat at a cafe or restaurant.
Correct.
Now people didn't have the option, so they wanted to make it at home.
Hmm.
So we were like, let's just launch it now, because instead of going waiting for 6 months, I think people need it now, and also we were a very offline heavy brand because I started way back, so we had
Correct.
a very good retail distribution by the time COVID happened, but then retail was kind of dead then,
Correct.
and our online was very very small. It was like
Hmm.
between Amazon and our Shopify, we only did about 3% of our sales online.
Wow. That's small.
But luckily, we had the channel built. So we had our Amazon
Hmm.
store, Shopify store, and we were able to quickly pivot and just push those channels in. So
Right.
that's why that bet, and luckily for us it worked, because like every COVID wave, our sales online would spike, and people really took to the pasta and pizza sauce category
Hmm.
very
Correct.
fast, and the turnaround for that is much faster, right? Because the jam will last in your fridge for a few months, or
Of
depending
course.
how often you eat it. But a pasta sauce bottle, like a family of four, it's gone in one meal.
Right.
So churn was also much faster. So that category really took off for us.
I remember trying your pasta sauce somewhere around that time. I think we were based out of Bangalore, and yeah, like that was we were looking for. I think you were the only one doing pesto sauce at that time, if I'm not wrong. Like I don't know whether it was that year or the next, but yeah, we were looking for pesto sauce, and we were like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is something different. And overall, in your journey, do you think there was a moment where you said, yeah, let's shut this and let's do something else, or was it always ki nahi nahi?
I don't think there was any moment where I felt ki let's shut this. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, there were lots of moments where the question was, okay, can we survive can we survive tomorrow?
Right. Right.
Can we,
Hmm.
how do I stop this from shutting down was the question.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then should I shut this down? So I think because there were lots of periods when, like they were very tough, right? Like we had a
Hmm.
lot of high interest debt, losses happening, not getting funding, no
Hmm.
personal wealth to back up and, to put into the business. So
Right.
for me, it was more like, okay, how do we survive this tough thing? There were obviously lots and lots of tough phases in this business. So it was more about like survival, like, ki how do I think my thought was always like, okay, how do I survive now, until tomorrow?
Hmm.
Like, how do we, there's no money in the bank, how do you pay salaries, stuff,
Right.
right?
Correct.
That has happened a lot, of course, over the journey.
Hmm. But how did you manage like that? That's very stressful, no? Like generally to not have like there's something,
Mm.
but you don't have the funds to back it up, and so yeah, that's usually a very hard. Those are the toughest moments of a founder, right? Like how do you pay the bills and how do you pay the salaries the
Yeah,
next day?
yeah. But I think this is something that most founders go through
Hmm.
because everybody has that time and there's no money in the bank, and you're
Of
like, okay,
course.
now how do you make payroll, right? And
Yes.
that's one of the most critical and important things because that's something I always focus on the first.
Hmm.
But I
Right.
think for me, it was just the conviction in the brand and the products that we were making.
Right.
I knew that okay, we make great products.
Hmm.
I knew that we have some of the best tasting clean label gourmet
Of course.
in the country.
Right.
I always I looked at the short term whenever there were problems. Like, let's solve today's problems and kal ka kar
Right.
dekh.
Correct.
Tomorrow we'll figure what happens. But let's
Right.
solve for so that we can survive today. And
Hmm.
luckily, I think something or the other always worked out.
Hmm.
I think as long as the conviction was there, for me it was more like I know that what we're doing is right. I have not done so much. I've not come this far to just come this far. There is more to the
Right.
story. Always had that kind of mindset that there is a lot more to go. So
Right.
something or the other would work out. We will obviously find solutions, whatever it is. But
Hmm.
I've had times when I've had to borrow money from friends, whatever it is, like
Right.
figure it out. And I think for me, I've never been a quitter really. I don't give up that easily.
Hmm.
And these things also build a lot of resilience in you.
Correct.
I always feel that it's not about how many times you fall, but how you have to get back up at each time you fall.
Correct.
To fight, you have to kind of live another day, right? So that's the
Yes.
main thing. So I think problems will always happen, even when you call yourself a successful business. There'll still be challenges. There'll be,
Of
the
course.
future will keep changing. Something new will happen.
Yes.
But it's just about how do you solve it and how do you like. You have to just keep fighting, right?
Hmm.
And I think it's just surviving to fight is the more important thing in a way. So luckily, that I think grit and resilience has been there, and it was built because of these tough times, and
Hmm.
that helped me kind of survive and carry on and be here today.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I think that's a very, very strong trait of anyone who's been successful, that that they've survived through a lot of the things which others would have just quit, right?
Yeah.
That's also that's very, very important. Having said that, for our viewers, of course, you should also know when to pivot if you're going through that. So, talking about clean label in general, with the Gourmet Jar, you've been committed to small batch clean label. Was there a point, and a lot of brands started as clean label, but eventually the moment they went retail and they went big, they kind of started compromising on that, but still they've grown, right? That they've grown to be like big brands. Do you ever thought that okay, we can do something like that, or do you now regret it, or are you proud of it? Like what how did your journey with staying clean label, how was your journey with that?
I think I'm very proud that we are one of the first clean label brands in India,
Hmm.
and I think we have always stayed true to this philosophy.
Right.
Maybe because I started off very differently. Like I did not start like okay कि business बनाना है बड़ा बनाना है or
Hmm.
have to make a lot of money or reach like we're not chasing a number कि okay इतना valuation चाहिए या इतना
Right.
1,000 crore करना है तो like that's kind of not been the idea from the beginning
Right.
because I started this from a passion for cooking, right?
Correct.
And I was trying to make products that I liked eating at home, and I wanted to make like I liked eating that way.
Right.
No clean label, no preservative, no chemicals,
Hmm.
very simple home ingredients, right?
Right.
That was the philosophy, and I think for me that essence will always stay the same.
Hmm.
I want to help like create products that help people find the joy of cooking again,
Right.
that don't harm them, that they don't have to feel guilty about, that help
Correct.
them, enjoy delicious food at home. That's the whole idea of the gourmet jar.
Hmm.
So over the journey, a lot of people have told me, why don't you compromise on the ingredients a little bit, make a cheaper
Exactly.
product that
And I'm
can
sure retail distributors would be, that there's usually a lot of pressure from the distributors, especially in the, in GT,
yeah,
थोड़ा सस्ता कर दो, थोड़ा कुछ एक दो preservative डाल के 6 महीना life.
correct. Yeah, yeah. No, that has always been there. Like people have given all sorts of gyan in terms of okay, how to make it bigger and how to scale
Right.
up, etc. But I think for me, because the purpose that I started out with was
Hmm.
different, and I think for me
Correct.
that matters more. And it's not about chasing a number, like I said. It's
Right.
it's about offering products that I like to consume, that
Hmm.
I feel are true. And being honest with the brand and the philosophy, right?
Right.
So for me, I think I'm very proud of that. And yes, it's been slower in terms
Hmm.
of growth. And but I think, like I said, like then when you're doing something different, also people aspire to it, right? So this market
Of
is
course.
growing.
Right.
So eventually, more and more people, and as India is, people are making more money.
Hmm.
There's more disposable income. People are trading up, and they like, how do you when you start making more money? How do you it reflects in your lifestyle, right? You make better choices. You want to, especially I think food is something which is very very important, and
Of course.
it reflects a lot in terms of our lifestyle, right? So
Hmm.
people want to eat better. And I think now with the kind of awareness that is there in the, and the like, I think the travel also has increased a lot since COVID. So people
Right.
are more exposed to international food and they want to eat that kind of food
Hmm.
back at home as well. So I think all of these things kind of tie in together. And I feel that even though we may not be as big as a, mass brand,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean you're not big enough for yourself, right? Like,
Correct.
always that's, the goals are personal and subjective, right?
Correct.
So I think I've never regretted having a clean label brand.
Hmm. But give me an example. Like, was there a shortcut which everyone was, you were a lot of gyan was being given to you that okay, do this. There's this one shortcut which you should take and you can grow exponentially, or like it did, you refused to take and it hurt you financially.
So I think the main things are like, for example, we use whole fruit. We've never used pulp,
Right.
right? Like I started making jams. So most jams are made with pulps, right? And now what is going on inside a pulp, you don't know. Like,
Correct.
what was the quality of the produce? Because once you grind something and just filter out all the, like stems and all of that, like the pulp, you don't really know the quality. So for
Right.
me, using whole fruit has always been a very important part, and it takes a lot of time to prep. It takes a lot of
Of
labor,
course.
but I feel that's what enhances our final product in a way. So we don't compromise on that, even though using pulp will be much easier in terms of logistics, cost, everything, right? But we don't I won't compromise on that. Another thing is like grinding our spices, because spices are very very adulterated. So for us, getting whole spices and grinding them
And
ourselves
grinding. Oh, right.
is something that we do because we
Of
don't want to
course.
take like pre-ground spices, because again uski purity ka you don't
You
know,
can't trust.
unless of course now there are brands that you can trust and they've kind of changed this as well. But like I think for us the philosophy of grinding our own spices is
Hmm.
very, all of these things they make the process more labor intensive, and
Hmm.
obviously a higher cost to it. But then I want to use real ingredients and we want to be sure of what we're using. So that's something that we don't compromise on,
Right.
even though that will help us probably like reduce cost and impact the finances a lot more.
Hmm.
So I think these are some of the things that it's just about your your main like pillars. I think what you won't compromise
Correct.
on.
Right. Right. And yeah, like the fact that you did not, it does not come from a thought of building a company, building that. So, the things are very different in that case versus if you would have thought that, Acha, let's make a unicorn. So then you would do things very differently. But
Yeah,
I'm sure there must be times when, when you had to adapt or improve or, change what you initially thought, right?
of course, yeah.
So what was like, give us some examples of that, and, and how do you understand uh, when to adapt or when to, stick to your first principles?
So I think, like for example, I mentioned that I started off making jams and preserves.
Right.
Now, when this business started taking the shape of a real business, so I had to look at market size, right? And India
Hmm.
is not a sweet breakfast country as such.
Right.
The market size of jam and preserves was small, so that's something that I had to accept and adapt. So we
Hmm.
had to add savory products, right? And which was a big turning point for the business, because savory is now like 80% of our portfolio in a way.
Wow. Right.
So that's, and also in terms of I think products and SKUs. So I did launch products which did not work, which probably the market did not understand. So initially the approach was like, okay, I like to eat this, so let's launch this, right?
Hmm.
In the
Right.
first few years, but
Correct.
there were some products which did not work at all. So I
Hmm.
had to take a lot of returns from the market and all of that, right? So
Right.
now, eventually, after a few years, I understood that I can't be launching what I like. I have to see what the
Hmm.
customer wants, right? What the
Right.
market is demanding. So I
Correct.
think data helps a lot over there.
Hmm.
So for me, I think I am a very data person and I like to see what data is telling me.
Hmm.
And after that, at the end of the day, it's about balance. So you have to look at data, but trust your gut.
Correct.
So for me, I think that balance between data and instinct, or data and what you
Hmm.
want to do, is important. In terms of like we launched pasta sauces because we saw data that that's a very fast growing
Hmm.
category. And we saw that pasta and pasta sauces are growing like around 2019 was growing at like a 35% CAGR
Right.
so we were like, okay, this is interesting because that means there's a lot of potential here, right? So
Hmm.
that's and so we use data to take that kind of
Right.
strategy. So I think for me it's about balancing. I didn't want to be stubborn. Like some things like a lot of people have told me ki you have too many SKUs. Like at one point we had close to 40 flavors.
Right.
People are like, there's too many SKUs. You should just focus on your 10 hero products and cut out
Hmm.
everything. But in those aspects, somewhere I've been stubborn. Like I did
Hmm.
cut out like maybe the bottom 10 based on data again that what is
Right.
not really. But at the same time, I did not like bring it down to 10 because I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, if an SKU is contributing like 1 or 2% of my sales, then why should I cut it out? So
Correct.
that's where I was like more stubborn. But again, it's all data.
Data back. Right. But take me a little into the into your data decision. Like, do you use AI for that? How does that look like?
I mean, I think more than AI, because now that we've been there for a few years, of course,
Hmm.
we have a good amount of data, that
Right.
comes in from the market. And I think
Correct.
AI is, of course, something that, like, for example, for our Shopify customer data, like where we are selling directly, there
Right.
it helps for sure, in terms of analysis and insights that way.
Correct. Yeah. And in general, like, if you talk about your daily life, where do you think AI has impacted you the most?
I think in terms of, obviously, it helps in terms of, graphics and designing, and it helps in terms of
Content in
research.
general.
Yeah, and I think research and number,
Hmm.
like, anything
Right.
research based where there's a lot of information, it helps a lot. And even now, for example, day-to-day things, right, where small agreements or like you don't have to pay a lawyer every time you want
Right.
something. So that's
Correct.
something which is easy to generate, like, a distributor agreement or whatever, like some
Hmm.
of these small things. So that's, I
Right.
think, for essentially information-based tasks,
Hmm.
which don't require a lot of strategical input, there I think
Right.
AI really helps, in terms of, and even I think in terms of like responding to like my team uses AI for their mails, it makes them look better. Some
Right.
of them don't have like great English. For them, I think for all of this thing, it really helps a lot.
Really helps. Yes, yes, of course. It'll fix your grammar. It'll fix your
Yeah,
basic. Yeah, yeah. The emails in general, I think overall humanity's email quality has improved. That's been one of the biggest changes, I think. And if you look at what you've built, right? If you look at Gourmet Jar and you look at the past from now to the last 12 years, tell me one thing you're most proud of.
I think I'm just proud of what I've built, So, like the whole journey, the learning, especially. I think I'm most proud of like from who I was to who I am today.
Hmm.
My personal learning has been very, very, significant, I would say.
Right.
And from being very naive and, not knowing anything in terms of business and especially finance and numbers to
Right.
now I say that, okay, I'm a successful entrepreneur and I can teach a lot about the fundamentals of business and all. I think
Right.
so that's something I'm very proud of, and of course, like having impacted a lot of lives. You've created employment and then customers who enjoy your products because food is a part of your life that gives you joy, right?
Of course.
The good food makes you happy. So I
Yes.
think that is something which I'm very proud of. And again, being one of the first one in India to build a clean label or gourmet
Right.
brand. And
Right.
today, of course, every second brand is like clean label, and that's the whole market, right?
Exactly.
And I think just the fact that I've been able to continue surviving these 12 years is
Hmm.
a lot of setbacks.
Right.
And like, we've raised only 2 crores in the journey of 10 plus years of this business. And
Right.
we've done like a lifetime sales of 60 crores. So I think that's for me, taking that 2 crore and making this business and,
Something so big.
building this brand
Right.
is something very, very,
Hmm.
to be proud of course.
Right. But do you plan to raise more and expand in the next few coming years?
Not currently. I mean, of course, we are expanding and we are
Mhm.
growing, but
Right.
not looking to raise currently.
Capital right now. Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Like if you don't have to raise, then that's the best. That's the best way it can be, right?
Yeah.
Build from your own business. And so you have a lot of experience, right? I'm sure. And you've done it. You've been there. Most of the things which people are trying to do now, you've already experienced all of that. So give me some learnings which you think new entrepreneurs um, would know would want to know, and especially what this slow growth and being sustained for 12 years has taught you.
I think most important is to build resilience, and I think building slowly teaches you a lot of patience.
Right.
And it also teaches you to build for the long term and not
Mm.
just like the short term goals, and
Right.
focus on fundamentals like unit economics, profitability,
Correct.
rather than optics, because it is very the environment is such that it's very hard to not compare. You will look at others who are raising so much, XY
Right.
is raising, your competitors may be raising a lot more. They may be doing a lot more revenue than you, but they may be burning a lot more as well, right?
Correct.
I think one thing is like just focus on fundamentals,
Mm.
profitability, because that's what a business is supposed to do.
Right.
Because fast growth can lead to a lot of crashes, I feel.
Correct.
But when things are tough and when there are storms, then I think slow and sustainable growth is what helps you weather those as well. And yeah, and just don't compare yourself to others. And it's hard, of course. It's not easier said than done.
Right.
But I think like you just have to, if you really believe in what you're doing, and just stick your ground, and
Mm.
eventually things will fall into place, I feel.
That's very solid advice, honestly. Believing in what you're building is
Hmm.
very, very important. And of course, as you said, being resilient and
Yes.
saying that, okay, this is it, and if this is something which I believe in, I am gonna take it to the end, and not quit in between. Thank you so much, Apeksha. It is wonderful. Last question for today. Now, if you look back, what does success look for you personally? Is it the brand? Is it the money? Is it like a positive revenue base? Like, how would you define success?
From a business perspective, I think success for me is when your survival does not depend on the next round of fundraise.
Mm,
When you're sustainable and profitable, and whether
right.
when you stop having that doubt in your head that whether you will survive tomorrow.
Mm,
That I think
correct.
to me from a business perspective is like success.
Mm,
Personally, I feel that being in control of your own time, having the freedom and flexibility to follow my dreams outside of work,
correct.
to build that I want,
Right.
like that's very important. I feel like
Mm.
so work is a part of life, but not your entire life. That's very personal, but for me, it's not my entire life. It's a part of life. It's a very
Right.
important part of life. The other things that I would like to do, having the time and freedom to do that, and to just be in control is success to me. Personally.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. There's another question from Weber. He loves your branding, and he's saying that how did you start with such amazing branding?
Thank you, Eber. But honestly, my branding has gone through a lot of iterations.
Mhm.
It's very different from how it was when we started out. So, as I mentioned, we started off as a home business. So, my initial packaging and branding was we had a pink label and a white and pink polka dot cloth, on top.
Right.
And that was, of course, good for a home business. And but when I got into retail, we realized that one, it's very feminine, so it stops the guy from picking it up. Second is like it wasn't retail friendly, so the cloth and the ribbon would keep coming off on the shelves, etc. So then we had to kind of rebrand and
Mm,
redo the logo, etc. Then we had like, so what I really wanted, and I was clear about it, I wanted a transparent label. I wanted people to see what's inside.
mm,
So that was one thing, and then second thing was, okay, let's do a, like, let the flavor be front and center. So we
mm,
had this big bold white lettering. So these were the two thoughts when we created the design, like this was the third iteration of uh,
right.
packaging. So yeah, so that was the thought, and I think I engaged an agency to do that. But the thought process, or the the mandate, okay, it has to be transparent. It has to be like the flavor should scream big and bold. That was the thought behind it.
This
No, now it's been a while that it did take us 3, 4 iterations to get here, but I think now we'll stick to this. And also, I think we are known for the branding and design, and a lot of people have loved our.
I
Uh,
know, the big names, those bottles, you see those bottles and then you remember,
yeah,
the
yeah. And then
recall
you've
value is
also
really
like
high.
also a lot of we do a lot of gifting.
Mm, yeah, amazing. The last question for from our community, the Kirti saying that now the local market has matured. Do you think the next big shift is Indian gourmet going global?
Absolutely, I think that's something we're also aiming for, and I think
Mhm.
producing gourmet brands from India and
Right.
selling to the world is definitely the next big thing, because I think we have been known for mass products, and we've been known for very different kind of categories. But I think now with the kind of quality that we have over here, it's high time that the world should see that India can also do gourmet.
Right.
just mass produced brands. There's still a long way to go in terms of the local market also. I feel
Mm.
we're just at the tip of the iceberg because this wave is just kind of beginning. Going international is definitely most brands.
There is a certain credibility in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
global market as well now. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Apeksha, for your amazing insights and love your journey. Love how you've struggled and stay put and reached here. It has been lovely hosting you today. For all our listeners, that was Apeksha Jain. She's the founder and CEO of the Gourmet Jar. You can find their products all around e-commerce. I mean, please try them and give us some feedback in the comments later. Thank you so much, Apeksha, for your time. It was lovely.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Same here. It was a pleasure hosting you.